Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Nerdarchist Dave here hanging out with...
Nerdarchist Ted.
And today we want to talk about one of the uncommon races of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
The Dragonborn.
Mahahaha. Some of you guys are going to love these things, some of you guys are going to hate them. It's a holdover from 4th edition. And, you know, I know which side the fence Nerdarchist Ted here falls on.
Yeah, I'm a huge lover of dragons. Have been probably since even before I started playing D&D, and that was 20 years ago or more at this point in time.
A minute, you just like dragon boobs.
It's not about the dragon boobs. Dragons are creatures of power. They're creatures of mystery, and it's right there in the name, Dungeons and Dragons. So dragons were on this pedestal, and you know, in 3rd edition, you had the half-dragon template, and you had these things that could make you draconic. And that draconic is the language of magic.
There's probably like several prestige classes.
You know, so you've got all of these things that are gearing you towards a dragon character. And Dragonborn was the first one that says, you know what? Just do it at first level.
Play a dragon character.
And then on top of that, you've got a character who's like, you know what? I've got a breath weapon. I've got an area of effect attack, regardless of what the damage is. You've got an area of effect attack as a first level character, even if you can only use it once a day.
And let's face it, you're talking about a character that's geared more towards being a fighter, a ranger, a barbarian, something that's, you know, more martial in nature, and it is definitely an interesting thing. Now, I don't hate the Dragonborn like some people do. I'm kind of like meh on them. I mean, I love Draconians.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have just kind of incorporated Draconians. And actually in the book, in one of the sidebars, they do mention the Draconians as being...
It just says it right here.
Dragonborns with different abilities.
Yep.
You know,
they replace their breath weapon with, you know, their crazy, bizarre death abilities.
Yeah, well, and one of the odd things that I find about the Dragonborn is the fact that they don't have dark vision. I mean, but, you know, I guess, you know, between their resistance, their breath weapon, it'd be a bit much.
Right.
But, you know, and the breath weapon is cool because it scales.
Right.
You know, you're not stuck with, you know, a die 8 weapon, and they don't make it crazy at first level either, so right. it's not a great game breaker. It just adds a lot of flavor.
Indeed.
Now, I like to make fun of the Dragonborn because in 4th edition, there was absolutely dragon boobs. And it just is the weirdest thing for a reptilian creature to have very, very mammalian features.
Well, so, I think one of the things that they've looked at is they tried to make it so that they have those features, so that they blend in, I guess I could say. Because how odd would it be if Dragonborn, just like lizards, just look like lizards? They don't have those kind of features. They don't have, you know, the curvy hips and the bosoms as females and the stouter arms and shoulders of males. You know, it's one of those things that kind of goes with fantasy art, and they just applied.
Yeah, but think of the role playing, man. Excuse me, sir, I'm a man. In a deep raspy voice.
And I'm certain if you want to, you know, flavor your games that way, the art can't stop you from doing it. But they're just presenting it in a way that, one, gives you that feel, and two, unfortunately, since this is a fairly dominant male genre, that somebody's going to be like, okay, well, I'm impressed by seeing dragon boobs.
Well, that's true. But, you know, that being said, like, you know, right now, the image they have here, you know, I'm guessing is male, but it's obviously you wouldn't be able to tell if they went away from the dragon boobs or not. And I haven't seen enough of the art yet to really go, okay, they've moved away from that and they've changed it somehow.
Right.
Or not. But all that being said, with 5th edition, they really have gone away from a lot of the stereotypes, the chainmail bikinis and such. In
previous editions.
Yeah, in previous editions, they really are trying to be, I think they're trying to be more appealing to everyone and more realistic, too.
Indeed. I mean, and, you know, just look for it. You know, there's plenty of videos and artwork out there, you know, that people have done. I watched a video where there's a chick in a chainmail bikini, and she's like, what the heck? There's not enough protection and the
Oh, wait a minute. I think I shared that video. Where the armor is rewarding everyone with armor, and she gets the bikini. And her male companions are like, no, absolutely, this will protect you. It covers the vitals, sort of. And you know what? Like, that stuff is ridiculous. So, when it comes back to actually gaming and representation of that gaming, they're bringing it back. Like now, if they're in the book, if you see a character that's scantily clad, it actually makes sense where it is. It's not very often. It's like, maybe the druid who looks more like a Tarzan type person, and that one is a female, but maybe the fact that that she's not wearing armor isn't as big a deal because she's got a freaking tiger. So,
or could become one.
Yeah. So, in that case it makes sense, but the warrior is bedecked in armor.
Right.
So they've gone away from that, and now we've gone away from Dragonborn.
So with Dragonborn, yes, they don't get the dark vision, but one of the things that I do think is pretty neat is they actually get a bump to charisma as well as strength, and that kind of stems to the more sorcerer-like abilities that a dragon is known to actually possess. So even though it's not their prime stat because they get a +2 to strength, they all of a sudden now have a bump, making them a better bard, paladin, or sorcerer.
Warlock. There's actually a bunch of things.
So that gives them that. I mean, heck, even technically, cleric with charisma being their secondary, and clerics are known to wade into melee, so having that plus to strength isn't bad either. So it really diversifies them. You regardless of which of those classes you take, being complemented by their breath weapon, they really are pretty neat, and they're gonna look different. And yes, they're supposed to be a more rare race. They're uncommon, if you will. So playing the Dragonborn, you walk into a town, if you're the only Dragonborn for 100 miles. That could actually have an impact. You could have people, in shock, or all of you, and then if you actually happen to be a charisma-based character with that bumpy number, you could literally kind of go onto that draconic awe factor of the good dragons of old. That people would literally be,
especially if you bump the high ranks in persuasion or intimidation. Or you are a bard or a sorcerer, especially a sorcerer with the draconic ancestry, or the bloodline, which is definitely a way cool idea. Although I'm pretty partial to the chaos magic.
Yeah, I mean, the wild magic does really have some serious fun to it.
I was looking at that and figuring out extra ways to make those sorcerers make wild surge checks.
I saw your options for that.
But okay, so I'm not a huge fan of the Dragonborn, but like I said, I'm not a hater. I think it's interesting. My 13-year-old son, I'm about to start a family game, I guess you could say, with my two kids and my wife, all of which are pretty much noobs to gaming. And he loves the Dragonborn for a lot of the reasons that Ted does. So Dragonborn clearly appeal to 13-year-old boys and Ted. But so I understand it. I get it. It's like Ted said. It's Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it's right in the freaking name of the game. They're okay, but I actually do prefer the Draconians far better. There's actually a really good book that was written, and it is after the War of the Lance, and it's a small town of Draconians basically trying to eke out existence. And it's funny because these predecessors, if you will, to the Dragonborn are at war with another town that's close by of dwarves. And they kind of go back and forth, like stealing stuff from each other. But it's almost written in a way of how Indians used to go to war, where they didn't actually really kill each other, and it was more of a test of skill and honor.
Nice.
Than it was violence. Well, for the Draconians, they didn't have a way to replenish their numbers. At least if you're one of the other races, you could perpetuate your race. They couldn't. That is kind of a sense of immortality,
right,
where theirs was very finite. And it goes through the whole book, and then at the end of the book, they introduce a clutch of female draconian eggs that was stashed away because the Dragon High Lords realized, wait a minute, if these things are uber powerful, and right now the only way to make more
is when we say so.
If we make them an independent race, they may be able to think and do things on their own.
Right.
So, that was really a good book based on, the predecessor to the Dragonborn.
Right.
Even though they look way cooler than the Dragonborn, I'm sorry.
Well,
and their cool death abilities.
They definitely had an interesting look, and you could tell one type from another, and that was really interesting. I'm not a huge Dragonlance fan. I read the initial trilogy, spring, summer, fall, or whatever path it went, and it didn't grab me. A
lot of the actual other books, like the companion books, were way better than the actual trilogy.
But you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. So whatever hate comments you want, feel free. I was not a big fan. I was more a Forgotten Lance, guy. Forgotten Lance. Forgotten Realms.
I've forgotten that Lance, biatch.
I was a Forgotten Realms guy, and I enjoyed that. It was far more of a magic setting and a regular D&D world that Forgotten Realms was, versus Dragonlance was very, very, very much geared towards their stuff, and there was just so much stuff that was somewhat alien, and starting off by like, oh, clerics don't exist really, until she finally starts casting magic, and people are like, oh my god,
a cleric, the gods are back.
But so with Dragonborn, I'm a fan. I've got a concept for a Dragonborn paladin that I want to play, and it'll eventually get made, and hopefully eventually see the light of a game.
Well, that being said, I understand that players are going to want to be Dragonborn. The first campaign I'm running, I'm actually not allowing them because I want to introduce them into the world in that game. I kind of have some ideas for our Griffin Gaff campaign we've been running to introduce Dragonborn and hopefully a cool and spectacular way, and then there'll be a player race for everybody. Because, I know people want to play them, and I don't want them to be super common either. I think, Tieflings are the same way. And I like the fact that they list, okay, now we're going to talk about the uncommon races.
Right.
You got your other races that are pretty much the staples, your humans, your halflings, your dwarves, your elves. And then you got, I don't know how the drow got to be in with the common races, but...
well, because they're just a shoot-off of elf.
I know. That's a whole nother discussion for another day.
So, Dragonborn, in my opinion, I'm pro. I'm digging on the 5th edition stuff here, and I think we've dried up the use of Dragonborn.
Yeah, so, and so it'll be the last race that I probably play. I'm just more enamored by the other ones. But you know what? For those of you guys that you want to look like a dragon, be strong and charismatic, and by golly, people like you. Because if you don't, you'll breathe fire on them.
Or then lightning, or acid, or cold.
Or then be a Dragonborn by all means.
So, check us out at nerdarchy.com. You can find us pretty much all over social media. We're anywhere.
On Facebook, we post a lot of those funny pictures with women in chainmail bikinis sometimes. And we try and stimulate conversation there as well. But find us in any of those places. While you're at it, hit like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, my friends, stay nerdy.